Hello, greetings from Hyderabad. Interestingly, we have two sessions today, each of 25 minutes and a 5-minute Q&A. First session would be Rethinking Search, how generative AI revolutionized and transformed website search, presented by Greg. And second one would be on the web-based debt, Rethinking Digital Strategy for a Post-Click World, presented by Cade. This event is hosted by Vishal and Yamini. Over to you, Greg and Cade.
Hello, everybody, and good morning. Thank you for inviting us in to talk about this. I'm super pleased to see so many people in the room. It's fantastic. It's morning for you, but late afternoon for me here in Brisbane, Australia. So there's a little bit of strange sun around my face. I'm trying to get some winter warmth if I can. So I'm doing the first presentation today, so I might just share my screen and kick it off, huh? Cool. I'll just bring this up and start my slide deck. Cade, maybe you can let me know when it's good to roll.
Yeah, we can see PowerPoint.
All right. All righty. This is a really interesting subject to me, and it's actually a project that Cade and I are working on right now with one of our customers, because there has been such a change in terms of how we deal with search, and there's no mistaking how much change generative AI is driving. And really, I presented this to our client maybe 12 months ago when Gen AI was relatively new, and have since seen what I thought might happen absolutely happen. So what we're going to look at is how Gen AI has revolutionized and transformed website search. And notice I haven't said revolutionizing or transforming, because like many things to do with Gen AI, the future's already happened, and this is already happening out on some of the better websites around the planet right now. So what really drives this and why it's super important is that Forrester's research shows that experience starts with search, and 43% of people, when they hit a website, the first thing they do basically is go into the search engine to start to look for content. And you're probably like me, we've all searched a million websites by now, and it's uber frustrating to have to do it. It's every time we answer an RFP or a customer talks to us, it's like, please fix our search. So there's been something wrong with search for a very long time, and it's also been exactly the same for a very long time. Interestingly, now we're in the era of Gen AI, we're seeing zero-click search results at Google. So according to Forbes, 60% of Google searches now result in a zero-click result, which means that people aren't clicking through to the inevitable list of answers that usually you have to go through in order to find information for yourself. So I'll speak very quickly about our client who uses Solar Search, typical Sitecore client, sort by relevance, sort by latest, a whole bunch of filters, all of the good stuff that you would expect. And still, search is a problematic area for most customers. It's kind of hard to tune manually. It's the bugbear of endless customers. So our client in a given period of time has 2,459 visits, and at the same time, 4,000 searches. So people are doing a lot of searching on corporate websites. And they're not, or have not until now, been having the best results delivered back to them. So this is a site that I found that I think is a really good example here. So I went into riotinto.com, and we are working with this company right now, and search works for them. They are not unhappy about it, but they're looking very much at the future about what's next with search. And I wanted to try and figure out how it kind of works. So I typed in towards sustainable mining, which is a super important topic for Rio. And I got a great list of stuff. Rio Tinto IOC recognized towards sustainable mining. And this phrase towards sustainable mining, TSM, comes up over and over again when you go through this website. It's a really big thing. So to understand how well we were tracking this, I also did a search on TSM, and I came up with the first result was okay, but the rest of it were completely about a different subject altogether. So typical search, keyword-based searching, really isn't doing the best job that we can see here. And search has a couple of other, interesting problems around it. And one of the most common is the size of the repository. So I searched for iron ore, and there are 539 results here. And I'm going to be a very old man, or I should say older man, by the time I've really found what it is I'm looking for. So repo size is a really big deal. Audience diversity is also a really big deal. Some folks want the latest, some folks want it by relevance. And of course, there's a whole stack of different document types that we're dealing with that we have to make discoverable. And the way that's most typically done is by manual filters. So there's documents, there's images, there's all of this sort of complexity floating around this concept of search, which has been the same forever. I started, believe it or not, using the internet in 1995. And search then was type into a box, get a great big list. And then basically you use that as a springboard, if you like, into fields of data that you had to correlate, you had to look at manually. And it didn't really give you an answer. It gave you the path to an answer, which was often laborious and full of dead ends and all of the frustrations that we found around traditional search. The other thing that happens is that it's very, very difficult to make sort of search actually work for you. So you can see on these two pages that we search for the same thing, and I've got the one on the left set for latest, and I've got the other one set for relevance, and they're exactly the same. So the tools are kind of complicated to use, and manual tuning of these tools is just using up too much time, and it's too difficult to get a meaningful result out of that. So Rio Tinto and other really big brands use a company called Bowen Craggs, and Bowen Craggs have an index of the top 100 sites in the world, as they believe, the 100 most effective websites. And they basically judge these websites and put together a list. And companies like Rio Tinto and Nestle and really big brands subscribe to it to try and figure out what they need to do better. So they're scored on all of these things. And the first thing that Bowen Craggs looks at is the construction of the site. So they interrogate navigation, user orientation, integration. But the big thing here is the quality of the internal search engine is a really key thing to them, even before Google visibility in this particular list. So Rio's scoring on the quality of internal search was one of the things that we saw was a low-hanging fruit win, because if we could change the paradigm for search and modernize it, we could bump them up in the scoring pretty dramatically, because it was one area where there was a lot of room, for improvement with that company. So quality of internal search is a really, really big deal. And, there's no turning this back. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle here. Gen AI is changing everything. And, it really sunk home to me, especially because, I remember being in Sydney at a train station, and I needed to get to a particular train station. And I did a Google search on how do I get to this train station from Central Station. And it gave me a big list of train timetables to look through, which was not the convenient thing that I wanted. So I just opened, I think it might have been Copilot, might have been ChatGPT, and I said, how do I get to this train station from Central Station in Sydney? And it said, go to platform 5, get on the Parkville train. And that is actually what I was looking for, not a great big list that I have to laboriously go through. So Gen AI is really, really great at looking through data and extracting a reasonable answer. So this really set the stage to transform search completely. And even if you go onto Sitecore.com right now and open their search and type in what is XM Cloud, you will see that Sitecore Search gives a Gen AI based answer at the top and then the link. So what we really want to look at is how conversational and brand aware AI is really redefining content discovery. So traditional keyword-based search is being completely replaced by AI-driven conversational interfaces. And that towards sustainable mining, and the TSM example was a really good example of a keyword-based search failing on me, because it didn't understand the context of TSM and towards sustainable mining. And it's a big industry term, so it really needed to know that. Yeah. Users nowadays expect an intelligent, context-aware results and not endless lists to trawl through. As a result, generative AI is now completely transforming how users ask questions and discover content. AI models analyze content semantically and not just by keyword, which again is the TSM model. And even longer or long-tailed or buried content becomes more accessible through natural language queries because it's looking at the entire context around a piece of content, and then essentially magnetizing the stuff that can be deeper in a repository and surfacing it more effectively than filters and tag-based search utility tools. So search is now really becoming kind of more of an exploration tool, and it's not so much about just retrieval. The end result of that means that there's no more scrolling through hundreds of pages of search results. There's none of this, oh, gee, my result is on page 3 of Google, therefore it will never get seen. I love that it delivers summarized, ranked, and personalized answers. And I love this idea that I can continue talking to it. So it can iteratively get better and better and better. And of course, this reduces user frustration and improves the ability for people to complete the tasks on websites that they're looking for. Gartner say by 2026, 60% of digital experiences will be initiated via conversational interfaces. And I don't think they're talking about the web. And it's a really interesting tie into my colleague, Cade, who's going to talk about, the reality of that happening when the web is no longer the primary cornerstone of how we find information. Forrester says search is becoming experience-led and not results-led. And McKinsey say AI-powered search increases productivity by up to 40% in content-heavy workflows. I am now a big, unashamed user of Gen AI in my daily work, and I think it has easily 5x'd my ability to answer questions, complete RFP documents, complete quotes, even complete consultancy work, as long as I'm very, very careful to double check everything that it says and that it hasn't delivered me false information. So users are now interacting with search like it was a chatbot. It's iteratively going on. And I love the idea that very soon we will just talk to our phones to search websites. And I know that you can already do that, but Rio in particular loved this idea that you could talk to Rio and that Rio would listen and Rio would answer you. And search was a much more human experience than the current, model and paradigm right now. The responses with AI improve with each query refinement, of course, and it's excellent at mimicking natural human interaction for better UX. So it might not understand jokes, it might not understand all of the nuances of stuff, but it does a much, much, much better job of it than somebody having to sit and go through 5 or 6 links to get an answer to a question. Of course, we probably all experienced AI hallucinations. So it's really important to put guardrails around this. And the strategy there comes down to this thing called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generations. And what that means is that you're really pointing it at a content repository and saying, search this, don't go outside of that. So it's retrieving PDFs, and it might retrieve all of the news articles in Rio's case, for example, in the news and insights section of their website, but won't necessarily spider out into a news website to bring information into that, which of course you can control. So it's important to put those guardrails around all of this sort of stuff. So content sources must be verified and controlled, especially for any regulated industries like health, insurance, FSI, banking, all of that kind of stuff. And most importantly, we should just be open about this. I love going onto websites and doing a Gen AI search where it will literally say, we are experimenting with Gen AI. This is an answer that we believe is as good as can be delivered right now, but they're very openly saying that it is new. To some extent, it is still somewhat experimental. And I even got a call the other day a telephone call, and I answered it, and it said it was the digital representation of a company. So I was talking to a robot, and I didn't hang up, even though it was a sales call, because it was just so novel to be talking to a robot. And it literally said that it identified itself as a digital entity and was going to talk to me about Codehouse. Unbelievable situation. And I think one that really talks about where communication, corporate communication, search, and even sales will go with all of this stuff. So some really cheap, really fast takeaways before we have a couple of minutes to answer questions. Gen AI makes search fast, smart, and more natural. That's just kind of a fact. The Bowen Craggs index that I spoke about before references more than one company now using Gen AI in its search, and it is rewarding them very heavily for doing so. So we can't any longer just, you know, strap in a search and kind of hope for the best. Discoverability is dramatically improved by the use of AI semantics rather than filters and manual tags. Search becomes a strategic experience layer that is brand safe, conversational, and outcome driven. And it's really the start of personalized experiences. When you think about it, we're still doing quite a lot of personalization that is, I guess, implicit. So we're guessing what people are interested in based on their real-time profiling, their real-time content consumption, and so forth. Whereas if we really pulled some of that lens away from the implicit and looked at explicit stuff, search is really the first place that you might start to think about low-hanging fruit for personalizing experiences, because quite simply, customers are literally telling you what it is they want, and search is just churning out an answer, but it's not actually really listening. And Gen AI has that capability to change that model and really listen, to make recommendations, to take that search further, and to re-engage that customer like ChatGPT does right now. If I search for something, it will say to me, do you want to make this into a PDF, or do you want me to deliver this as a Word document? And all of those additional capabilities get brought into play. So there's no doubting that this is real. Cade, who's going to speak to you next, and I were at a conference recently in the beautiful Hunter Valley in Australia, and we saw a search company, a very famous search company, do a presentation for the audience there. And what they presented was this lovely concept of a Gen AI answer, an answer to a query at the top, and then the link list underneath it. And it gave the user really the option to say, I'm satisfied with what I've read. Great summary, thank you very much. Or I'm going to do some deeper digging. And I think that kind of hybrid model is a sort of a stepping stone, if you like, to really full generative natural language and conversational search. So as I said, when I started talking about this to Rio Tinto, this was just based on me using ChatGPT and thinking, wow, that's incredible. And within 6 months, every search engine on the planet was starting to boast this capability. I started to see it when I searched public websites using Google and stuff. I certainly started seeing it on big .coms like Sitecore.com. And now I think we're going to really see it floodgate open and happen pretty much everywhere. So that's my little chat. Very happy to take any questions that you have. Cade can also jump in and answer, because we work hand in hand as the strategy team here at Codehouse in Australia. So if you've got any questions, feel free.
If you have any questions, you can answer. Sorry, you can ask the speaker now. Or if you have any other questions, you're still thinking about the presentation, then please drop it in the chat window as well. So
Yeah, happy to answer later. Happy to reclaim a bit of time as well for everybody. But I would strongly suggest that you go out and revisit the search engines that are available, including Sitecore Search. and weigh it up against, some of the other ones on the market, and you will see that they're all very much heading in the same direction.
Yeah, somebody has a
Bloody hell.
question. Hello, does somebody has a question, or it's just a background noise?
I think it's background noise, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that could be me. Sorry.
You can go ahead, Cade, now.
Okay, cool. All right. So thanks, Greg. That was a great deep dive into all things search. So Greg and I do work together at Codehouse Group. I actually am going to be referencing some of the same kind of changes that Greg has, although I'm going to be kind of zooming out a little bit more and talking about kind of the broader changes in terms of digital experience and digital strategy. A lot of what I'll be referencing are things that you've probably already observed, you've probably already started thinking about, but perhaps haven't quite fully formed the language around it. Look, and I'm going to put it very bluntly, as the title says, my position is that the web as we knew it is dead. And that's because for decades, we treated the website as the main event, the digital destination. It was where our brand lived. It was where our digital funnel started and ended, and where all our analytics were focused. And we built websites for human audiences, browsing on physical devices, browsing through our interfaces, and we optimized those sites for generating more click-throughs and for minimizing bounce rates and building engagement and maximizing time on site. And we were part of projects, and we still are, that are all about redesigning those sites to support brand refreshes. And we led UX overhauls to really boost that site engagement, to really make our sites sticky. And we spent weeks and we spent months designing just the perfect UI, because the website was the thing. But my argument is that world has gone. The website is no longer the main interface and the hub and the focal point of digital experience. The role of the website has shifted from being the primary destination to being much more like the infrastructure behind the scenes. So while the traditional idea of the website is dead, something has been reborn in its place. And the role of the web going forward in this modern world is something, I'm going to argue, much more foundational and, in fact, transformational. Because the website now plays a key role in a much larger digital experience ecosystem, one that includes not just human audiences, but also AI agents, algorithms, and machine systems that read our content, extract our data, make decisions on our behalf, and deliver our experiences to users in real time, not just on websites, but across channels and platforms and devices, and even through physical environments. So this session isn't a eulogy for the death of the website. It's a call for all of us to rethink the way that we build the web in an AI-driven world. And my central argument is that we need to stop building websites for the digital world that was and start building for the world that has become. So let's dive into a bit more detail about what this new world of zero-click journeys and AI agents and machine-mediated content looks like. Firstly, nearly half of all internet traffic today is actually now non-human, made up of bots and crawlers and AI agents. And as you may know, AI agents can now do pretty much most of everything online on your behalf, from summarizing content, from recommending products, from making a booking on your behalf, purchasing flights, even building you custom apps, all without you ever needing to visit a single website. And so when we build the web, we should be considering agents as a primary audience for our content, along with traditional human users. And it's true that actually global website traffic has been declining since 2023, And this is across all industries. And this has been driven in a large part by the statistic we've already seen, the emergence of zero-click experiences, where 60% of all Google searches now end without a click. Users get all the information they need from machine-generated summaries built right into Google's search result page. There's no need to click through to your site at all. And this has resulted in reports of up to 60% drop in organic search traffic for some sites. This zero-click experience is the new normal. And we should expect this trend in declining website traffic to only accelerate as ChatGPT, as the #1 consumer app of all time, is soon to release their own AI chat-based web browser, which will just further remove the need for users to visit your website at all, as they can do everything they need just within the app itself. And so while visits to branded corporate websites are in decline, it's interesting to note that visits to user-generated content forums like Reddit and Quora are actually experiencing strong traffic growth. So we've got this interesting little paradox here where human users, we increasingly rely on machines for quick, summarized, AI-generated answers. But at the same time, we also increasingly turn to other humans when we need to supplement that with real, authentic, trusted content. So what's clear is that we no longer want the brand polish and PR spin and marketing fluff we get from corporate websites. We want our information either collated and quick from machines or honest and real from other people. But the net result is that our beautifully designed web pages and our carefully crafted website code and even our digital KPIs are increasingly becoming redundant. Because it's more than just zero-click. The whole idea of the digital conversion funnel needs to be rethought, because it was designed as a linear, multi-stage journey, right? But now that's completely flat. Users go to an LLM and issue a prompt, and they discover, decide, and transact, all without visiting your site. I've mentioned ChatGPT a few times, and it already has this shopping feature, but it'll soon be releasing an entire e-commerce experience baked into the app, where the user can do all the steps in the funnel, again, without visiting your site at all, or any website, in fact. So you'll see no visit recorded, no click-through rate, no lead nurture, no conversion tracking, but a conversion still occurs. But your shiny, slick website interface is bypassed completely. And there's this other thing. The whole concept of what's a normal digital experience has changed, because what was once a bright line, dividing digital and physical, it's now all blurred and getting meshed together. And there's a word for it, of course. The word is phygital. It's an awful word, but the reality is that today's customers and us ourselves, we know this. We move effortlessly. I'm not trying to say that word, between physical and digital worlds. So our journey might start with a real world trigger, like a QR code. We might bounce the user onto a digital channel and then have them navigate back and forth, completing multiple conversion events. But this is all happening without a single website visit. And there's an example there on the slide. So you might scan a QR code at the pub. You might order drinks on your phone, and then you're prompted to download the pub's app and you get some free digital credits. And then you go and physically redeem those credits at the bar for a free drink, moving back and forth between digital and physical worlds. And of course, there's heaps of other examples. We scan groceries with our digital devices. We track our biometrics with sensors on our arms. And as Greg mentioned, we voice chat with Gemini for answers on the go. There's countless ways that we seamlessly navigate back and forth through the phygital world without even thinking about it. So that's the picture of the modern world of digital experience. So if that is the shift, if that's some of the changes, what does this mean for us as technologists, as marketers, developers, and strategists. Firstly, as I've said, the website is now infrastructure. For decades, we treated the website as the end game, the end point of the digital experience. Every campaign, every link, every piece of content was designed to drive users back to the website. But in today's landscape, the website has become something much more like the infrastructure behind the scenes. It's a content system, a data source, a content repository, and a node in a much larger experience ecosystem. It still matters, of course, but not as the destination to arrive at. It matters as the content infrastructure that enables experiences to happen elsewhere in the digital world. And so we need to ensure then that the content and experiences that we once produced just for our websites is now findable and accessible and applicable in this kind of digital world. So really practically, if you're still just building content to be displayed on a website on a screen, you're missing this whole other spectrum of reality. The second point there is that humans are no longer the primary users, machines, in fact, are. We're so used to thinking of a person sitting in front of a screen browsing your site, but increasingly, the reality is that the first and sometimes only audience for your website is not a person at all. It's an AI crawler. It's a large language model extracting your data, or it's a personal AI assistant coming to transact and complete a task. These users are the new intermediaries. They read, assess, extract, summarize, and deliver our content on behalf of human users. And they don't care how pretty your user interface is. They don't have to work to click around your clunky UX. They only care whether your content is findable, structured, tagged, indexable, authoritative, and useful. So optimizing for humans is still necessary, but it's not sufficient. If you don't optimize for machines, your content simply won't be seen. And the third point strategy is now system orchestration. So traditionally, the strategist's job was to map out the user journeys based on defined personas and guide users down carefully designed funnels. But now, as we've said, those funnels are flat, journeys are unpredictable, phygital, and often get agent mediated. So the strategist's role is no longer about controlling the flow of a user through a site. It's about enabling outcomes for our users across a distributed omni-channel environment. So as strategists, we need to think more like a systems designer that connects up the different platforms, that enforces governance over the content and the data and the experience, and importantly, enables automation, all at scale. Because we're not designing for screens anymore. We're designing for entire experience ecosystems. Now, a lot of this talk so far has been about changes to the end user experience, but it's really interesting to know that the back-end world of website management is also getting a massive shake-up. So let's talk about the technical revolution coming with this thing called Model Context Protocol, or MCP. So MCP is a USB-C port for AI, as it's been said. Essentially, MCP is a new protocol that allows large language models like Claude or ChatGPT to actually interface directly with our applications through APIs. And users can do that using natural language prompts. So that means that instead of a person logging into a CMS like Sitecore and clicking through menus to publish content or configure settings, they can simply go to their LLM of choice, issue a prompt, and then their LLM will act agentically on their behalf, using the API calls to execute the job within the specific application, for example, Sitecore CMS. So this is a fundamental shift in how we approach the operation of the back end of our websites. because LLMs can now run your CMS on your behalf via the APIs. And of course, the Sitecore composable SaaS suite have a rich set of APIs that can be accessed just for this purpose. So MCP lets an LLM do things that a normal content author would do, like make content updates, translate content items into different languages, publish content. So the whole admin and authoring layer is abstracted out of the application into a conversational chat layer in an LLM. So AI now does the operating and we do the orchestrating. In the past, we had to know exactly how to perform a task, which menu to open, which module to click, which button to click. But in the world of MCP, you don't need to know any of that. You don't even need to be familiar with the user interface at all. You just need to know what you want, and the AI handles the execution. That changes our role entirely. So our role now is to orchestrate the outcomes, to ensure we have the right content in place, we've made the right connections between our systems, and we've got the architecture in place to support our business goals. We lead the strategy and the AI does the operations. In other words, the future of digital experience isn't in how well we operate the tools, it's in how clearly we define the outcomes we need to deliver. And this is a really exciting world for creative digital strategists and technologists to play in. So with these changes in place, what does this mean for our strategy playbook? So the traditional playbook, it focused on human-centered UX, with journeys and funnels and screen-based experiences and optimizing for click-throughs and conversion. Now, strategic success depends more on our system design, again, thinking like systems designers, and our technical fluency, connecting the systems together, and our ability to generate machine-ready and optimized content. So we've got some before and after contrast there, where we once focused on delighting our users with fancy UI and compelling storytelling. Now, we need to focus on executable CX, where we optimize for agents, for machines, to access our content and quickly and easily complete tasks. What was the world where the website was the interface, whereas what is now is the website as infrastructure. And importantly, where we once measured success with traffic and engagement, now we measure success based on content visibility and selection by agents. And so our strategic priorities must shift as well. Structure now beats style. Robust content schemas, rich metadata, and content clarity matter more, even above visual design. And we should be designing our sites for task completion, not for navigation. We shouldn't assume that users are clicking our menus and navigating our components. We need to surface our site goals so they're easily accessible. And we must shift our focus from building traffic to building trust. Yes, we still want to be clicked on by users, but it's critical we're also selected by agents. And so we must focus on delivering high quality, authoritative, deep, and informed content. No marketing BS, no keyword stuffing or buzzwords, just content that is quality. And so bringing this now into the Sitecore landscape, Sitecore's composable DXP stack is built for this kind of new world. Let me map it all out for you. So we've got XM Cloud. Think of this as your experience orchestration hub with headless content delivery, continuous deployment capability, and of course, API accessibility. So you won't get far at all in this new world without a modern content management system in the fullest sense of that word, with a full suite of capability behind you, and that's XM Cloud. And then you've got Content Hub, So Content Hub is your content governance platform and your single source of truth for your content assets, for your metadata, for your taxonomies. This is where your content models live, where you design content workflows, and when you enforce your machine-friendly metadata schemas, and of course operate API first by design. This platform is important because it helps your team move from content managers to content engineers and strategists. Then we have Sitecore Search. This is search capability built for semantic, headless, API-first content discovery. So search delivers results based on the context and the intent, not just direct keyword matching and rigid content taxonomies. So Sitecore Search, whilst it's designed to deliver good search for people, for sure, it also delivers the goods for machine systems that need precise contextual responses to their queries. And then we have Sitecore CDP. This is your user data hub and profile orchestration engine. Your CDP builds consolidated and unified user profiles. And this is the point that can be activated upon across any digital channel, platform, and touch point. And then pair that with personalize, and you can enable smarter, more scalable, omni-channel personalization experiences that are driven by data and rules and user context. And again, this is a system that's responsive to both human and machine interactions. So it's the ideal kind of infrastructure capability and pairing to deliver the content needed in the phygital world. And lastly, of course, Stream, which is the explicit AI layer across the Sitecore ecosystem. It's tricky to say too much here because it's evolving so quick and we're still getting our head around what it can do. But at the very least, Stream is both a standalone set of AI capabilities and it's an embedded AI capability across the Sitecore product stack. But what I'm most interested in and hopeful for with Stream is that we'll actually see Stream come with those empowered AI agents that can actually execute a sequence of tasks end to end across the Sitecore ecosystem on your behalf. And it's not quite there yet. And I think with this MCP approach, it's really going to give the Sitecore product team a run for their money. Can they build that capability into the product itself? Or do we need to leverage MCP as a kind of standalone protocol to do the same thing? But whichever way it ends up going and whichever way you choose, the future appears to be about this autonomous AI agents executing all manner of things on behalf of human users. So hopefully Stream enables that. But together, take this suite together and you've got the foundation to move from delivering static websites in the old world to orchestrating dynamic, distributed, machine-mediated experiences. Now, just to kind of start bringing it home, what can you do today? We've certainly talked about some big changes going on, but that doesn't mean we have to wait. We can actually get started now, moving in the right direction. So 3 ideas: experiment with AI tools. So prompt, test, adapt. A really helpful exercise is identifying all the common tasks that you do within your current role and start giving them to AI and see where can it help? Where does it really accelerate and improve your output? And where does it still need a bit more work? But the bottom line is you've got to be discovering new things about AI weekly, or at least monthly. It's changing so fast. And if you're not trying to keep up at some kind of regular cadence, the fact is you're falling behind. Also, you can audit your current website content for machine readiness. Have you applied all the relevant metadata schemas? Have you optimized your content for answering questions? And is your content easy for an LLM to trust? Have you got dates? Have you got author names? Have you embedded in your content indicators of your authority and knowledge on the topic? And thirdly, you've got to start tracking some new metrics. We actually need to go back to the old days of monitoring bot traffic. We can turn off the bot filters in GA. You can track the decrease in website visitors that you're seeing potentially through zero click. And you can track referrals from ChatGPT using the automatically added UTM tracking parameters to its links. And importantly, don't freak out. Expect your website visitor traffic numbers to continue to drop. That's normal. And you need to track your performance in LLMs. It's a little bit hard to do, but I know Adobe is planning to release a new LLM optimizer product. And I expect all the other main players to be releasing things quite soon. So watch this space. Bottom line is machines are now a first-class citizen when it comes to your website traffic. So you need to treat them like that. So these are all things you can start doing immediately. They don't need a platform overhaul. They don't need a six-month discovery. They just need a mindset shift from designing just for screens to designing for systems, from building UI to building content structure, and from counting clicks to orchestrating outcomes. And then, of course, there's some longer term changes as well. So if you've been working in digital for long, you'll know this familiar pattern of building a new site, redesigning it every few years, refreshing the content, tweaking the UX, maybe swapping a platform or two. That cycle is now a bit broken. Things are moving so fast. User expectations are changing. AI is changing every day, reshaping the landscape faster than traditional roadmaps. So I think we need to reimagine our roadmap. Instead of planning for your next rebuild or redesign, start planning your shift to infrastructure and targeted, adaptable digital capability. Think through what capabilities do you need to feed an AI-powered experience ecosystem? What APIs, what governance processes, what system integrations will allow your content to be picked up from where it's needed and delivered on demand without being manually copied or re-entered or redesigned. And so we should be going composable. And this is something we've been talking about for years, but the emergence of the AI world order really makes one of the strongest cases yet to go composable. Composable DXP, I don't think is a nice to have. I think it's the architecture of survival in this new world. And lastly, strategic content ops. Content is still king. It's always been it, but now even more so. Content is no longer a back office function, the way that we manage it. Content ops is now the engine room of your digital experience. You need to invest in robust, smart, AI-powered content management tools. Otherwise, you can expect to remain behind the pack. If your taxonomies and metadata and authoring workflows and governance aren't strong, then your platform investment will under-deliver because your content may end up being invisible in this digital world. So content ops is where strategy, structure, and scale converge. So we need to resource it accordingly. And final call to action, champion the change. Okay, hopefully I've shown you don't have to change everything at once, but you do need to get started. And another simple way you can start is by just changing the conversation inside your organization. Shift the brief from how should our site look to how should our content ecosystem be optimized? And try to bring your team along for the journey. It's an exciting opportunity to shift the discussions and to shift the activities from operating the tools to orchestrating the outcomes. And from just building the websites, our role now is to build the infrastructure for delivering digital experience at scale in a machine-mediated world. This is our moment to be part of a massive change in our game. So don't rebuild your website. Let's build for what's next. Any questions?
Any questions, guys? And I think that was awesomely presented by Cade and Greg, because from today's world wherein Gen AI is revolutionizing, making use of that and getting future ready, I think those are the most important points, because we still not stuck to the digital world yet. So I think somewhere we move to digital world as well. So I think that was a really interesting presentation today. And any questions, guys? Feel free to post it in the chat as well.
Feel free to ask questions of Yamini, and she can forward them through to us, and we can answer them over the next couple of days. No rush, no hurry. Sometimes things occur to you later. So feel free to just forward questions, and we'll happily answer them. And Cade, that was killer. That was so good.
It's a fun moment in time, and I think we've got to take the reins and take advantage of it, because it's just like we're just surfing the wave, really.
Yeah, and it's faster and faster, and it's time to look over the shoulder and paddle. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. See you in the next session. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.